everybody, 6-Speed Dakota here, and if I look any different, that's because I'm coming to you from my new GoPro Hero 3, which is probably the coolest thing I got this year for Christmas. So now I got a rather unique problem today. I have this 2003 Acura TL. It is a Type S automatic, unfortunately. We all like the 6-speed, I know. It's my brother's car, and we had a unique issue here. So if we come over here, so this is the original blower motor, and it had gone bad. Now if you look very closely inside there, I don't know how well this camera works. You can maybe see that those terminals are very burned up. So this blower motor here was obviously bad. What I did is I used a wire, or a couple of wires, jumped these two pins to the positive and negative terminals on the battery. And the motor didn't run, and the wires heat up very, very quickly, meaning that that motor is badly shorted to ground. So I replaced that motor, and then of course I plugged it back in and it didn't work. So I noticed that the connector was all burned up. So if we come over here, and we notice that I have pieces of the connector sitting here. But I mean, just look how crispy and burned up these wires are. I cut most of that out. That was really, really bad. And that's because the motor was drawing too much amperage. The connector just basically flaked apart. And of course I plugged new terminals in. That didn't work either. So after a few frustrating hours, what I did is I bypassed the blower pack resistor, which is this guy right here, and with the key on, the fan runs at full bore. So basically how this system works is that power is supplied to the fan at all times. And in this case, what happens is the climate control system chooses when to ground out the fan and how much resistance it can ground through. That's how you get your fan control and your fan speed from. Now, what I believe happened is when the connector melted, the two pins touched together and basically flowed a huge amount of amps through this guy and fried it. That's my theory. So we're going to do a few functional tests to make sure that that isn't the problem. So stay with me, and let's get started. Look underneath here. This is the aftermarket blower fan, and I made sure it works by connecting it to the battery when it didn't work the first place. And I basically kind of rednecked these two terminals in here for the time being, so don't hate on me for right now. I need to get a new connector for it, but basically I wrapped these two in tape so that they don't touch and short out, and so on and so forth. So basically this here is the power wire, and it supplies power at all times with a key and run. And this wire is the ground side wire. So what I did is I actually cut this wire, and notice I had power on both pins of the connector. So that's when I knew that connector was shorted out, because it was melted and the two pins were touching. So what I've done is I've actually taken a detailing cloth and stuffed it up in the hole where the blower pack resistor was. And for right now, I've jumped the two pins together on the blower pack resistor. So basically what you want to do, so I'll have to unwrap this guy here. So basically this system is a transistorized control system. So this blower pack resistor here actually has a transistor inside there. So what these two wires are the control wires. This guy here is the ground wire, or the ground side of the motor, and this side here is the actual ground. Now what this guy does is this actually limits the amount of current that can come out of this wire and into this one, into ground. Now one of the tests you can do is make sure that this black wire here has continuity to ground, which I've already done. Now another thing you can do, if your blower motor does not run, is what I've done underneath here is I've jumped these two pins together, and if we turn the key on, the blower motor runs in high. So essentially we've bypassed this guy, and we know that our blower motor works. So now what we got to do is we got to check if our blower pack resistor is indeed bad. Now what we need to do is we need to ohm two of the terminals. Now I'm not entirely sure which one it is, so I'm gonna have to go check, and we'll come back in a second. So what we need to do is we need to measure the resistance between pins 1 and 4 And the reading should be between 1.5 or 1.4 and 1.5 kilo ohms. So I'm going to ohm these two. Now the reading, I don't know if you can read it, but it's 1.540. It's slowly dropping. 1.536. Now that's not crazy out of range or anything like that, but it is a little bit more than what the specification is. So again, leading us to believe that this thing is bad. Now I know on two of these I have 1.483 kilo ohms. I can't quite remember which terminal is which, but I believe it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Since I know that this wire is number 3, which is what we're going to check coming soon. First we got to make sure that there's no short to grounds in the main connector. What we need to do is we need to do a continuity check to ground here. So notice I got my plug on a good ground, which is the striker latch here. And one good way to check is to ground it to this. There we go. That should beep, indicating continuity. Now, we're going to have to check these two pins to ground. And while I do both, our meter should read OL, or open leads, which is good. That means that these two wires here are not shorted. These are our control wires. So now what we need to do is we need to check to see if we can run control from this wire to the blower pack resistor. So what we need to do is we need to pop this wire out of the terminal here. And then what we need to do is we need to put 12 volts into this wire using a jumper wire. So first thing we got to do is we got to get this pin out of here. And then basically what that'll determine, when we turn the key on, if the blower runs, then that means that the control unit here is not sending power to this guy here. So basically this blower pack resistor, wherever it is, I'm not quite sure, pardon the mess in here. The blower pack resistor controls the fan on and off and the speed through these two wires here. So if I can put power to this one with the climate control system on and everything else, and it comes on, then we know that the climate control system is bad. So what we want is this for the fan not to come on. And when the fan doesn't come on, we know that it's the blower pack resistor. So as you can see, what I've done here is I've carefully removed this wire here. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to jump this guy to power. Now there's a couple different ways you can do that. You can use a very long jumper wire and go directly all the way around to the battery. Or you can cheat like I'm going to do. And you can just go to the fan connector like this. Now if we turn the key on, and we turn our voltmeter to volts, still having our negative test lead hooked up on a known good ground. If we take this wire, touch it to there, we should have battery voltage. Now the battery is quite weak on this car. So what we're going to do, turn the key off, and I'm going to touch this wire to the terminal inside there. Now that's way the hell down there. And now a moment of truth, we're going to turn the key on. We notice that the fan is not running. So that is a very good sign. We'll just double check that we do have battery voltage. I know it only says 10 volts. This battery is very weak. It's on the charger right now and I got the key on. I can't believe this car miraculously starts. So it's about 9:30 at night right now. So unfortunately we'll have to pick this up tomorrow when I get this new part. But we've definitely determined that the blower pack resistor is bad, which is a good thing, or else it'd be the climate control system. So I'll pick it up tomorrow afternoon when I get a new blower pack resistor. Okay, so fast forward. You get to fast forward in an instant of a clip. I had to fast forward to tomorrow, but got our new blower pack resistor plugged in. And now it's time to test the car. So if I remove my wood clamp GoPro mount, I turn the key on. And that is the wrong key, so don't even start with me about that. I've got an issue that's stuck in there and I got a locksmith coming. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the AC on. Don't make a fool out of me. There we go. Victory is sweet. So now all we have to do is put that guy back in. Not sure how well you can see this, but I'm in a rush on this one. So just up in behind the heater blower motor, which is right here, is where this thing goes up into the dash, and it's held in by two 8mm bolts. Now I am going to need to put a new connector on this motor, but I got bigger problems with it right now. But that'll be a future video to come. Oops. Okay, now one last thing to do is check the repair. And there we go. It's all good. Okay, so now doing a post-mortem on this, we may ask, why did this blower pack resistor burn out? Could it have just been the problem in the first place? Well, basically what had happened, and what happens to blower motors over time, is when they start to burn out, the blower starts pulling a lot of amperage. So either the bearings go bad, the brushes start to lose contact, or leaves get jammed up. This car's got a cabin air filter, so that's not a likely culprit, but I have seen leaves get jammed in there, and just general things, something could be stuck in there. And what happens is the motor draws way too much power, and that's what causes that connector to melt together, and that's basically what had happened. When you see a melted connector, very, very frequently it's a telltale sign of a motor that burns too much, that's burning too much power up. So basically what you can do is you take the motor out, and using a couple of fused jumper wires, attach it to the battery, and if the motor spins, then you know that's not your problem. But chances are the motor won't spin and or will blow the fuse in the jumper wire, and then your motor's bad. And try to spin it and that kind of thing, but usually this one spun fine actually and turned out to be bad. So in this case what had happened is because the motor was drawing too much power, the connector heated up and it melted together till the two pins touched each other. And because the blower pack resistor has a transistor that controls the motor on and off, and also the speed of the motor, that's what caused the blower pack resistor to blow, because when the wires touched each other, it flowed a large amount of current through the transistor and fried it. So that's a little post-mortem on it, and we fixed it, and it was quite expensive, unfortunately. Import vehicles are not usually cheap to fix, unfortunately. The motor was about $177 after tax, and this blower pack resistor was probably close to $70. So at the end of the day, it was about $250 just in parts to fix it. But you know what? It's a nice car. It's a fancy car. It's sure as hell fun to drive, and that's just what you get, I guess, for buying that kind of vehicle. So, at the end of the day, it was a little bit frustrating to figure out what the actual problem was, but in the end, we figured it out, and I've taught you how to diagnose it. So if you have this problem in a similar year car, this is the last generation, the year of this generation, but I believe it goes from 96 or 97 all the way up until 2003, then you have a general idea on how to diagnose a bad blower fan if you have this problem. And they seem to have this problem, I read on forums. So anyhow, next thing I'm going to do is change the battery, so stay tuned. And, it seems trivial, but, some people I've seen don't know how to take a battery out. So, it's just one general thing. I'm in the garage shooting, so whatever. I'll do it. Thank you for watching, everybody. Let me know what you think of this video. On my new GoPro, hopefully you can see everything because it doesn't have a viewfinder on it, but I love it, and I can't wait to play with it a little bit more. And you can now follow me on Facebook, facebook.com/6speeddakota. If you have any car questions, you can ask me there. Send me a message on Facebook. And also Twitter @6speeddakota. I post upcoming videos and stuff like that. So, and also if you have a car question, Post one in the comments if it's not too long. If you got a really detailed car question, send me a PM on YouTube. I love answering questions, so please do. All right, take it easy, everybody. Have a good one.